Our next discussion panel on Searching for India's Ancient Soul, chaired by Professor Kittu Reddy. He is seconded by Professor Bhagwandas Lahoti, and Anand will also represent, so to say, Professor Srinivas. Again, I would like to invite the chairperson to give some brief introductory remarks, moderate the discussions, invite questions from the seminar audience, and summarize the discussions at the end of the panel. Thank you.
Well, we'll start. Now, there are three basic questions which have been put here. To be very honest, I think each question needs 1 year of discussion, not 5 minutes, right? The amount of material and thinking that is needed, well, in spite of all that, I'll try to do justice to whatever little I can. Now, the first question is, what is the potential and possibility for an alternative political system? In 1969, Indira Gandhi had come to the ashram and she met the mother, and the mother gave a message, one of the sentences was, the greatness of a country does not lie in the victory of a party, but in the union of all parties. Now, since Mother has spoken about it, I suppose the potential is all there. In 1911, 1 year after Sri Aurobindo came to Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo said categorically that the parliamentary system is absolutely unsuited to India. So I'll just set two more sentences on this topic. We must get a union and a coalition of parties. Might be nature is pushing us towards that. From 1977, except for 2 sessions, we have never had one party rule. Willy-nilly, it has been a combination of 4 parties, NDA, UPA, call what you like. Possibly this is nature's way of showing us that better work together. The second important point is, and this has been brought out not only by Sri Aurobindo but by very senior politicians, one of them being R. Venkatraman, the President of India. Indian polity has always been based on taking decisions by consensus. The Panchayat system is a perfect example where the 5 village elders solve the problem of the villagers by mutual discussion among themselves and with the people. Now, evidently in a country of 1 billion people, you can't apply it exactly in the same way. But the principles have always to be kept into account. So since Mother Sri Aurobindo and our whole history has always been that, the potential is there. The question is, who is going to bell the cat? No political party, and especially those who think that they have a chance of coming with a single majority, will do anything to allow this thing to happen. Right? They will create every possible obstacle to see that they get into power all by themselves. It's utterly undemocratic. In a country where voting is not compulsory, a party comes to power with 28% of the vote. 28% of the vote of those who have voted. So it really comes to 14. And they behave as if the country is their property. It's totally undemocratic. So whether man will change consciously or whether circumstances will compel us to change, difficult to forecast. It can be both. Might be circumstances will push us to a way of thinking where we change. Question number one. Question number two. What are the prospects for and challenges for a united South Asia? Well, again, on the 15th of August 1947, Sri Aurobindo's message, the first dream was categorical, a free and united India, where he said the division must and will go. Let us hope by peaceful means, but by whatever means it will go. Well, again, whatever means the possibility of war. But today, possibility of war is a disastrous possibility because both sides have got nuclear weapons. It will be mutual destruction. Secondly, the whole subcontinent has everything in its favor to become united. Geography, even race to a certain extent, linguistic background, culture, the harmony of religions which has been there for the last few centuries, it's only recently that. But politics is coming completely in the way. Therefore, something radical has to be done. But as I said, Sri Aurobindo has said the division must and will go, it will happen. The question is that there are two forces now, the forces of unity and the forces of disunity. We have to strengthen by every means, with government support or without government support, people-to-people contact between all the nations in the subcontinent, and all the factors have to be taken, economic, cultural, art, linguistic, everything, health, that might lead to an atmosphere where one can take the next step. And the last question is, what is India's nation soul and how do you work towards discovering it? There is one simple, straightforward answer. I can't quote it because I don't have it. The mother has said, it was given to somebody in the army. Become conscious of your own psychic being, and only then is there any chance of your becoming conscious of the national soul. So there is nothing to talk. Either you are conscious of your psychic being or you are only talking away. But a silver lining, even if you are not conscious directly of the psychic being, you can always be conscious of those areas within your own psychology which are very close to the psychic being. The higher mind, the deeper culture. And these are not directly the psychic being, but the reflections of the psychic being. Through that, there is every possibility that one might come at moments into contact with the deeper part. But Sri Aurobindo, in a letter to K. Munshi, had said once that I would like that in the school, the children should be taught, the map of India should be put. Tell them that there is the mother. The rivers, the mountains, all the different parts of the land are like the veins and the muscles and the tissues of your body. Make it living. So, if in our history courses, in our study of India, we teach India not as just a piece of land, but a living entity which expresses itself in the vital life through its economics, social systems, in the higher mental life through its culture, through its art, music, dance, literature. All these will lead to a very gradual awareness, and then suddenly the veil will break, and then you will have moments when one comes in contact with the deeper soul. But there is no other shortcut, right? No amount of intellectualizing, no amount of reading and discussing is going to take you even 1 millimeter nearer. In fact, it might take you a little further away. Because the mind can be so arrogant when it thinks that, no, I know everything, that it can become an obstacle. So that's why, as Mother had categorically said, that the textbooks of India, all subjects which are dealing with humanities, not physics, chemistry and mathematics, but dealing with the life, have to be recast and revamped entirely in the light of Sri Aurobindo. So that's it. No, somebody else has to speak. Okay, now if you have any questions, you're welcome.
Are there any questions or comments for any of the panelists?
I would like to ask a general question in the light of what we have been talking about in the past 1 hour or so. See, in the West, we had Thomas More's Utopia and much before Plato's Republic, and the idea of a state, divine right theory of kings. And later, in the light of science and technology, universalization of education and the emergence of the common man, ideas were developed keeping in mind the concept of democracy. Now, in India, in the light of Sri Aurobindo's philosophy of society, political system, have we made any mark in developing a political philosophy having an impact on the society? But what we today find in our society is three things. Number one, politics is a source of income for making money for the people, especially the downtrodden. Number two, it is not, unfortunately, for governance or to provide a ruling setup. And thirdly, the intellectuals hardly know the true and real mind of the poor. Only if the third comes, we will be able to develop a suitable social and political setup. This is what I would like to say, and I request you to comment.
Well, what little I know, there are some politicians who are very responsive to Sri Aurobindo. But I have not found anything concrete emerging. And besides putting up statues and other things, to bring it down on the concrete level needs a lot of very serious thinking. I don't think that that can happen. What is indispensable for this kind of work is a rational dialogue, where all men of goodwill who want something for the country should be able to freely speak about, because it is not very easy. After that, might be something will come. But individually, I know definitely certain people, but they are individuals and therefore they cannot do much. With the present party system, nothing will happen. This party system has to be removed. Right.
I just want to make a couple of observations. One is that, unfortunately, the professional system of education for the professionals in the country, whether it is management, technology, is almost bereft of any value education. If you take the recent financial crisis that affected much of the world, but rooted in United States, it is basically writing gambling software upon gambled wealth, so to say. People who know how the wealth is moving, etc. Putting the hedges in derivative trading and all that. And these software are all written for commercial interest, for short-term gains for the financial sector. All written by people who are graduates of Harvard, Wharton, IIM, Ahmedabad, Calcutta, that collectively these people are having a negative value, and they are writing this software without knowing what this software is actually playing the havoc on the world. Well, I'm just giving it because I'm an insider. I can see the nonsense that is going on in the professional education. You take a civil engineer, he does a very good dam design but does not know its environmental implications, the displacement of the people, the other alternate livelihood loss, the actual opportunity cost of the whole thing. There is no education about the implication. You talk about Naxalism and all that. Much of that have arisen in those tracts which are heavy with mining, where the people have been displaced on their own livelihood, and people are only exploiting this as a situation. It's a kind of, I don't know, blue collar, white collar, whatever kind of refined exploitation that is going on. And we have not thought how to involve the people themselves in this very act, in the local people themselves into it, where something have been done, like the Tata Steel have done a lot of good for the Tatas, the Ranchi neighborhood, where the Tata Nagar neighborhood of the people, and they have taken care of the schooling, hospital, the employment of the local people and all. It has been working, but we are not institutionalizing good examples. Okay, take for example the Anand Amul, I think our friend was here just now, here, yes. The system, it's a beautiful collective consciousness system that has been established. It can be institutionalized, it can be imbued with value using ICT. What I want is people who are in the domain of the subject, who also are motivated by Aurobindo's style of thinking and values, who are understand the deeper collective consciousness aspect that is playing in the role, and institutionalize such things, bring out rules. Our education system also, we have to create new ways of ensuring value is ingrained in the systems themselves. This requires much deeper study, not only a spiritual heart, but you also need a brain that works in synergy with it, with the kind of skill sets to understand the complex modern systems. We have to evolve the education to that level.
So there is not a question.
There's one. I would like to say that there is a control even on thinking. Our thinking is also so systematized that perhaps we don't realize that our thinking is happening even without our knowing about it. And I think I can quote my own example. I belong to the academy. Even if I want to introduce or incorporate Aurobindo, it is not possible in the Indian academy as it obtains today. For my own legitimacy and survival, I will have to take a contrary position to prove that I am capable of producing other positions than Aurobindo for my academic survival or professional survival. I think in this kind of posturing, a lot of fine intellectual energy is getting dissipated. And so many crores of rupees in sustaining our institutions goes into taking postures which are not for the health of the nation. Everybody realizes it, but it's not a question of who will bell the cat. It's that I like to think that all of us are enmeshed in a state where there is a larger force of thinking. I don't know what are the elements of that larger force, but that larger force of thinking is controlling and providing direction to the way the academy thinks or the institution thinks. This is as much as my little mind can figure out. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. See, first of all, let me point out two things. When politics or political science, what we say, there are two things.
One is talking of the order that is going to come, and then the other is the day-to-day management of the state. Now, much of the problems that what we perceive today are the problems of management of a particular state at a particular point of time. Now, take for instance Karl Marx or Aurobindo or any great visionary. They are not talking of politics in that sense, who will be the king or what he will do and all that kind of thing. That's see, this depends. It's a very historical contingent. You will forget everything of that within a day or two. Who is Indira Gandhi or who is Nehru, who is Gandhi, all these things are passé. But then the question that comes is what kind of order? Now in that context, Aurobindo's relevance. The point is, again, this is where why Aurobindo was introduced is not because I am a great fan or a great devotee of Aurobindo, because of his relevance, because of his context and because of his vision and the trajectory that he gave. To that extent, yes, everybody is studying. Now many people, many of the academics are taking up Aurobindo's very seriously because some of the answers, some of the solutions, he says, very interesting thing, the international bodies. In the beginning, what kind of international bodies are there and what kind of international bodies are there at this present. If these bodies continue, they may not bring a great order because they are a very defective bodies. They have not come a conscious evolution. Take for instance, the United Nations today, 5 members, they sit there and they decide and they don't know why. It is almost like old Gram Panchayat system. 5 people sit and they say, we are going to decide. But then he was talking, what should be the new model, on what basis the ideal of the world unity. Only when that comes, both nations and both the whole mankind will prosper. And I think much of the time, these 3 questions I should congratulate because you have formulated the issues very correctly. Now when I say, in a legal litigation, we say, what are your formulations? What are your prayer? What is it that you want? Now 3 important things that have come. What is the potential possibility of an alternative political system for India? Now yes, we have been talking, and luckily I say democracy is a great boon, great gift. And this is a product of Indian spirituality. That's a very interesting thing. Other countries who became independent at the same time resorted to all kinds of archaic method, dictatorship or feudal kings, or all kinds of things have come. So democracy. And then even in India, we are talking of alternate state system, Naxalism, thisism, thatism. But one thing, now I found that Indian political system, however defective it may be, because we will not be happy with any system that is there because there is always criticism of the existing system. But this system, yes, it has a possibility and it is managing well. To that extent, I have very little. Of course, the criticism will go on that the politicians are bad and all that kind of thing. That apart, even Gandhi or Nehru was also criticized, however great. But then they are the great people who could do the best that they can to this country. Now, the second question, what are some possible solution to the problem in the light of Sri Aurobindo? What are the prospects and challenges of United South Asia? This is a very interesting topic because, see, if you look at the evolution of United Europe, United States of Europe, that which Aurobindo, but EU, European Union, it emerged gradually, not by a theoretician having a vision, forcing us to do that, but no, it will evolve as under 3 values. Now, one very important thing that let me share this, he said, why European Union is possible? He said, Aurobindo made it very clear because of the 3 reasons. Greek idea of beauty, because the modern Europe is a synthesis of 3, Greco-Roman and Christian. He says Greek idea of beauty and the Roman idea of justice, and finally the most cementing part, the Christian idea of love, forgiveness, tolerance. Now he says, on these 3 values, all these nations have, and particularly Europe could become one because they are sharing these values. Idea of beauty or greatness, and then idea of justice, and then forgiveness. Now on the basis of that, he said Europe will become one. So in South Asia, Asia also, the possibility of union is there because we share the same heritage, the values. Of course, there are discordant because of the colonial rule, the religion which was a uniting force. Actually, Gandhi in his initial state, he thought that the religion is the uniting force, but suddenly the colonial rulers used that very potent force of religion as a discordant force. They created this divide of Hindu-Muslim, which was not there. Actually, it is for the sake of state power. So once we resolve that particular problem, the unity is simply possible. And European Union like that, it is not subsuming the sovereignty of the nation, but facilitating a great order, wherein which the Europe has become one and it will become a very powerful nation. The last one is also very important. What is India's nation soul and how do we work towards discovering it? Aurobindo was very clear from the very beginning. He says, India is not a geographical idea, because it's only one country, one continent, or one age which never try to conquer the other nation. It is, see, the basis of India is the spiritual, doesn't mean anything, but the great ideas, the great concern about the divine, about ourselves, all these things are essential part, and India was a kind of a laboratory for these ideas. To that extent, India will become a leader, not in the petty sense of the term that it will dominate the world, no. But it will give a direction. Now, two areas India also became very important ideal, how to resolve the inner contradiction of multiplicity. India is one country. The whole world is watching at us. It is able to resolve and is able to emerge and able to come out in its best color. So therefore, the true discovery of Indian nationalism, as Aurobindo in the 1907-8 itself, the idea of Swaraj, I actually stated that we have not celebrated this idea of Swaraj, which is a Vedic metaphor, but we started celebrating the French Revolution. It's a declaration. Now, this declaration of the Swaraj was much more profound, much more relevant, and matter of fact, we need to celebrate that. Of course, French Revolution is also need to be celebrated, but this is much more wider. In that sense, and again I feel that it is not the competing, in the sense India is not competing with any other nation, you know. We are all merging, subsuming, with becoming one with the other and becoming greater by greater. You know, in that context, India was lucky because of our spiritual leader laid a right foundation for Indian freedom struggle, and Tilak and Aurobindo and continuation of Gandhi. And the very reason Aurobindo, he said, for writing the Arya article was that he said we should conscientize people. The very reason why he was writing all these articles was one very reason, that without this conscientization, freedom has no value. Freedom has no meaning. Once I become consciously aware what freedom is, then only the freedom becomes possible. And then he said, at that point of time when he was writing this article, he said, yes, Indian political prospects are very high, but India doesn't know about its own spiritual heritage in its true sense. And let me share at this time, let's not brand Aurobindo as a brand. He's a great thing that happened. He's for the whole mankind, whether you like it or not. You know, if I deem it as an Indian, I am making a mistake. But he was not an Indian. He was born and brought up a pakka, what I say, a continental man, a European man. And then he could see the best of the India, because a truth seeker will see only that part. And in that context, I think that what Aurobindo did, there is a great possibility for our region, for the better world. This positive note I have. Thank you.
Well, maybe a couple of minutes, if I can take Chandra, just to very brief comments. Kittu, of course, has given us the essential view from what the mother has said on these three topics. And maybe what I would like to add is, well, the first question, what we have seen happening and what Sri Aurobindo commented, that India is, of course, democracy is not suitable for India. I think that idea and what my friend Lahoti said regarding Swaraj, I think we have to go back to our own roots of the meaning of the word Swaraj. And that, of course, bases itself more on spirituality, the inner freedom, the inner law. But one factor which, really comes foremost to my mind, since my young days, since my first time when I read Sri Aurobindo in the 60s, one ideal that was there pretty much forefront was the unity of India and Pakistan. But then as decades have passed by, what I've seen is India is changing surely, but we should not forget that there is something called the time factor. And also this question of a political system will not come to India on its own or only for India. India, as is connected with the whole world consciousness, and as Sri Aurobindo and the mother, they really repeatedly tell us that India represents the world's problems. So the world's solutions are also in India. So it will not overnight bring about a new political system. It is a need of the world itself to go to a new political order. And that political order, when the world, through the process of United States of Europe or United States of the East or whatever, when we move towards the necessity of a new world order, then I think India will give birth to that new order as a solution to the world's need. So this is one thing we must keep in mind, that whatever India does, it is a representative of the world consciousness. Now, coming to the second one, the prospects and challenges for a united South Asia. Well, there have been debates in the parliament and in the previous elections. A lot of people talked about that. But I think the very fundamental step toward this united South Asia is the union between India and Pakistan. Because without this unity, in whichever way Sri Aurobindo says it might come, and Kittu Reddy gave us what Sri Aurobindo himself said, the people-to-people contact, that is important. And I suppose nowadays that has become more and more, that's increasing. The politicians are fighting it away, and the other foreign powers to see that India and Pakistan always fight with each other. But in spite of all that, people on their own level have started contacting, and that was the way that Sri Aurobindo said, we will come together. So I feel until and unless these two nations come together, we cannot dream of a united South India, because all our energies on every level, monetary level, consciousness, labor, work, on every level is being dissipated and wasted. So I think these two countries, once they unite, that will kind of have a volcanic effect. And what Lahoti has been speaking about, the World Union of United States of Europe, I think from there the movement will start about the United States of South Asia. So again it comes back to this, that unless and until India becomes one, and what we see, the spiritual map, you have a journal, New Asia? You see what we have seen, and what some of you or many of you here have seen the playground in the ashram. The mother has given us this united, the map of India, the spiritual map of India. So this is already in a way what we are speaking about, the united South Asia. So you see, to get back the spirit, the spiritual India back itself means to get back a united South Asia. There could be some other countries added to that. But this is where I feel the mother has given us the push, a political push, and also on the occult level, she has given that force that one day this will become this. So it was not perchance that she, although it seemed quite perchance that there was an occasion in the ashram, somebody drew that and mother went and really she stood there and drew this map of India, and then someone else started coloring it or something. I'm sure it is not perchance, because what she does is not by chance. She has put it as a will, as Sri Aurobindo says, India and Pakistan will and must become together, must become one. So too the drawing of the mother itself is a concretization of this dream of Sri Aurobindo. But there again, if as Aurobindonians I feel if we have to contribute toward this United South Asia, I think we should contribute positively on the people-to-people contact with other countries, especially with Pakistan. I know all the problems that are happening around, but still, I think that would be the role and contributions of Aurobindonians in this dream. The last question, that is of course a very vast question, what is India's soul, nation's soul, and how do we work towards discovering it? I think Kittu has given us mother's answer, how to discover it. Discover your own psychic being, you discover India's nation soul. But what is India's nation soul? That is itself a very large question. I think for that, as Lahoti says, if you want to know about international law, you should read the Ideal of Human Unity. I would say if you want to know India's nation soul, you should read Foundations of Indian Culture. Because that book given by Sri Aurobindo is in essence India's nation soul. I mean, he has dealt with the fundamental aspects of this nation soul. Because it's not just enough to say India is a spiritual country. Because how does it express? A country, a culture has to express itself. And each country and culture expresses itself based on its own nation soul. Because what Sri Aurobindo says is that each soul has a specific purpose upon this earth. Like the human beings, like all of us sitting here, we have each a different purpose, why we have taken birth. So each nation has a specific purpose. Why is it born? Some of these souls, why do they really withdraw? Sometimes it happened in Germany that the nation's soul withdrew for a while because it was not fulfilling its own mission. But there is also a kind of a rebirth of a nation's soul. That's what happened in Germany. So we can see from that example that sometimes why Indian soul also was dormant for a while during this British occupation, but it is reborn during the Renaissance. So what I mean is, today this question of saying India is a spiritual country, it must be redefined. What is spirituality is not just the pursuit of the Brahman, but the pursuit of the Brahman upon earth in matter should be the new definition of spirituality. So that is how in India awakening now is really giving birth to the Brahman on many different levels. So unless we enlarge our scope of spirituality, we will not be able to redefine India's nation soul. Well, there are many things we can speak, but I think this is just a little kind of an observation, and we can have further occasions to speak about that. I know we are gone past the time, and I think Chandra is staring at me, and I stop at that.